afternoon, everyone. I know it is very tough after a lunch, delicious lunch, to hear a talk. I'll promise I'll try to make it short and crisp. Uh, before getting into the topic, let me start by explaining what is an API. I know all of you understand API stands for Application Programming Interface, but what does it exactly mean? Let me try to simplify it. Most of us have attended a lot of events, a lot of conversation with people from different geographies, people from different, uh, people from different uh, kind of a language they spoke. So we have encountered most of the time that a Filipino guy, let's say talking to a Vietnamese guy or talking to an Indian like me in their native language. And in order to achieve that, we have a translator in between who help us to navigate, to understand what that person is saying, navigate to rely on that person so that we understood the entire conversation well, and then try to help us in bridging the gap. So I'll call this as simply as an API for me because that person is acting like a API which is reliable, which is secure, which help me to establish that connect. And because of which I'm able to do a communication. So for me, API is as simple as that. Right now, why I'm talking about an API in the financial industry ecosystem, I'll just come to it in a bit. Let me walk you through with some global stats. So if I talk about the current internet traffic, so today 57% of the internet traffic is driven through an API. Yes, you heard it right. It is 57%. Similarly, if I talk about how global banks are spending or architecting the entire code solution along with API, so today they are investing more than 14% of their IT budget to get a API-centric digital transformation solution. And if I talk about the global API investment or market, banking market, then it is more than 20% CAGR growth. So that's a high-level stats to talk about the context here. Now let me jump to a Philippines uh, banking ecosystem. So Philippines is not an exception. If I talk about Philippines, the bankable population, we all know, I mean, the adult population is 44%, which is unbankable. And we are in a fast track to move from 65 million to close to 85 million population, which is going to be bankable by 2030. Similarly, if I talk about the overall market potential for Philippines, so it is projected to be 10.5 billion by 2025, which is again at a CAGR of 24%. Isn't it mind-boggling? Let me just talk about the last pillar for me, which is a regulatory framework. Again, thanks to our regulator, BSP, we are getting an access to an open finance framework, and you are able to experience a lot of digital banks coming in, a lot of innovations going around to bring a seamless customer experience, right? Let me now talk about why we are, from last 5 years or maybe last 10 years, we started talking about all these things. Because the customer dynamics is changing a lot. So when I say customer dynamics is changing a lot, the world is moving to more hyper. In fact, in the last panel, Mark XP talked about customers need a very different experience. They need a very hyper personal experience. So world is moving hyper. If I talk about we need a hyper personal touch with us. One of my fellow panelists in the morning talk about Starbucks experience. We need a very hyper personal experience. We need everything very agile, very fast, so that we need an instant gratification to things. The world is moving to hyper innovative. A lot of youngsters are coming with a lot of innovative ideas, a lot of innovative products, a lot of innovative financial products are coming into market. We are hyper informed and hyper connected. Mark talked about 9 hours of consumptions of internet in Philippines. Again, we are like fully informed, fully connected as a population now. And definitely we need everything hyper fast. So if you look at this, the entire banking is moving to the hyper side of customer centricity, right? And in order to bring that customer experience for the end customer and to improve the operational efficiency, the centricity or the core or the nucleus is API. That's what I'm going to talk about. So to handle the hyper, we want to create a digital bank for tomorrow, but today. right? We have to start something today in order to create a digital bank for tomorrow. And when I say digital bank, I don't mean that it is only for quote unquote digital bank. It is for conventional commercial bank who were able to attain so much in last few decades, and there is a potential for them to grow now. So there are two growth drivers for the banks to work upon, which is one, I talked about customer experience, and second, I talk about operational efficiency. Let me just, before moving to this, let me talk about some of the possible challenges which we foresee in our more than or close to 4 decades kind of an experience in financial industry, and with more than 2 decades experience serving Philippines market, Philippines banks and financial institutions. So we have legacy system and there is nothing wrong to it. Thanks to this system, we are where we are right now. But definitely when I talk about giving the kind of an experience we just talked about, it is difficult to leverage this solution. Similarly, the customer dynamics is changing fast, as we talked about. Customers need a 24/7 kind of an experience. Customers today need an omni-channel experience. Whether I log in through a mobile app, whether I log in through a web portal of a bank, or I go to a bank branch, I need a similar experience across all the channels, right? If I talk about the fintechs which are coming in, and thanks to them, uh, we have started thinking of ways and means by which we can deliver things faster to the end customer. Similarly, I talk about the last piece of it, which is operational inefficiency. So these are the typical challenges which we try to bucket out in the financial ecosystem in current scenario. And Philippines is not an exception. We are working in 50 countries, and we are experiencing a similar kind of a shift in all banks and financial institutions. Some are a little ahead, some are a little more on a moderate side, but everybody is facing a similar challenge. Let me talk about from these challenges, how do we participate in the API economy, right? So everybody heard about this open banking, banking as a service, Internet of Things, embedded finance. All these things are, I mean, you are hearing this from last couple of years in all this kind of an event. But let me give you a very basic example of how do we look at it. So if I talk about an embedded finance kind of an experience, I think soon, or in fact today also, but days are gone where I have to go to buy a car, right? But I don't want to go to buy a car and get a finance in parallel. What I want to do, I want to get an experience that I enter a car showroom, I get into a car, I look at everything, I love the car, I just give my consent, and everything else, finance, insurance, everything is done in the background. I'm just walking out with the car. So that's a kind of an experience an end customer is expecting today. That is a kind of an experience we need to give to the end customer. I'll take another example of KYC experience in India. In India today we have, thanks to DPI, digital public infrastructure, what we have built as a country. Today the KYC process, know your customer process to onboard a customer, which used to take at least a day to 7 days before this DPI infrastructure. Today, sitting at my home, anytime during the day, during the night, 24/7, with just 2 or 3 clicks, I'm able to do my KYC in 30 seconds, less than 30 seconds. So that's the power of API economy. And I'll just talk about two drivers which I talked about in the initial context setting. One is the customer experience, which is through an API, and second is the operational efficiency. Again, if I talk about a customer experience, there are a couple of factors which you can see here. What kind of expectation our end customer has today. They have an expectation that whenever they are going out, whenever they are reaching to any specific journey of their buying or their selling, they want bank to be there, embedded there, with all experience seamless, without thinking about the complexity of the things in the background. That's a kind of an experience our end customer need today, and that's where the role of an API-based economy or a role of an API-based technology comes into picture. Let me talk about, again, operational efficiency again. Uh, the time it required to build a product. Today, the banks want an experience where a product manager in a bank once think about or ideate about a product idea. In the evening, they want that result to be out. Because the one who is going to be agile, who is able to deliver the product on ground is the one who is going to capture the customer and create a win for the customer. right? So that's where the things are moving in. Uh, Now I just want to take 30, 40 seconds more on this particular point where I want to talk about how do we build our API strategy. I mean, it's not a rocket science. It's like how do we strategize our journey from here in order to get right onto this strategy for our institution. So one is to assess where are we standing today in terms of API. So develop an API strategy where we do an assessment of our entire infrastructure, our entire scope of work, what do we want to achieve, who is our customer segment, and try to figure out what are the roadblocks in that. Second, I talked about building a robust infrastructure on top of it. Third is definitely once we have internal setup, we understand our strategy, we have set up our infrastructure for ourselves. Now is the time we need to collaborate. I mean, today in this world, we cannot work in isolation. And everybody has experienced that. We need to work with all the fintechs, we need to work with the regulator, we need to work with cross-border institutions to enable an ecosystem which can provide a seamless experience to our customer. So we need to foster on the collaboration with different partners. Similarly, the fourth and important step is to upskill ourselves, upskill the entire workforce for us, because it is important for them to understand what does API mean, how is this strategy. Looks like a very technical word, but this is the core strategy for a bank or a financial institution when they're designing a digital transformation product for their institute. And the last but not the least is obviously a measurement and the optimization of the entire work which you are doing. So starting from an assessment to the optimization, that is a journey which we need to travel together. And that's where, it is very important we understand it with the current conditions in hand and try to develop so that we can have some achievable goals by end of, certain timeline which we set for ourselves. Just 2 minutes on Nucleus. Nucleus being into the existence from last 38 years, and uh, we are into lending and transaction banking software, working with globally 200 plus global financial institutions in 50 plus countries, managing more than $1,200 billion worth of retail assets as on date. It's been a very proud journey working with Nucleus because the impact we are going to create to the end customer is the key or core satisfactory element for all the people who are working with the organization and the partners. Uh, the entire architecture is API driven, which means that we have inbuilt close to 540 plus APIs in our solutions, which help banks to think in a strategy where they can look at all the pieces in a plug and play manner and try to achieve a very customized or very efficient journey for their end customers. Uh, I mean, it's spread across multiple countries. Thanks to Philippines and the love we get from Philippines. We are in Philippines from last 20 years, working with more than 10 plus customers here, helping them in different journeys, in different line of business. Happy to talk to all of you offline and discuss more about this journey of ours. Thank you very much.